Content warning: suicide ideation, rape, molestation, child abuse, and domestic violence.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which, could be easily why this is banned or challenged.
I think we just did the whole episode. I think it's over.
We just did the whole episode. We got it.
This is Burn This Book, a banned books book club where we, Nicolle and Eden, read a banned or challenged book twice a month and discuss its meaning, impact, and censorship to make it more accessible for all readers. I am so sorry. 'Tis the season. This week's book is The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky, which was published in 1999. We're re-recording this episode because our last one didn't have enough heart, in my opinion. So I know it was a hot take, and I'm wasting Eden's pregnant time to sort this out.
I'm so pregnant. As I pull up a blanket over me. It's also very chilly today, and I don't want to wear pants, so I just am in a dress.
So let's do a little synopsis of what Perks of Being a Wallflower is about. Would you like to do it, Eden? Is that okay?
Sure can.
Thank you.
Readers will find that it is very similar to Catcher in the Rye because it very much is inspired by Catcher in the Rye. Mm-hmm. It takes place over a school year. Charlie starts his freshman year at this high school, and he really wants to, quote unquote, participate. So he's trying to get involved. He sees a bunch of, he really likes sorry. I do hear me back. But
you do? Take out one of your headphones. Maybe that'll help.
Hi. Testing. That does help. Thank you.
Okay, good. Okay.
So he goes to school. He really loves his English class. It's his favorite class so far. Sorry.
Do you want me to do the summary, Eden? I promise Eden read the book multiple times.
Book. Sorry, yeah. I just my brain kept on cutting to the movie. So I'm his teacher's Paul Rudd.
His aunt is Melanie Linsky.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, I can focus. But he falls into he doesn't fall into. He meets two kids at a football game because he's participating in high school now. So he is going to football games. He's trying to meet people. And he meets Sam and Patrick at the football game. Patrick is, they're step siblings. So Sam's dad married Patrick's mom. And just from the get-go, they kind of just hit it off and become really good friends. Patrick and Sam, I think, they feel sort of parental to him. Mm-hmm. So they take him under their wing. He starts hanging out with their friends, who then become his friends. And it's just about Charlie. The format of the book is he's writing letters to someone. He's writing letters to you. But he never he addresses it to you, mm-hmm. but you don't know who you are. Maybe he is just addressing us as the reader.
Honestly,
and he's writing these letters as a way to just get through high school. Mm-hmm. And then just along the way, little things happen as they do in a high schooler's life. He witnesses some things. There's just a lot of little things that happen.
Yeah.
I don't know how to.
No, that was perfect. He's living. It's very coming of age. So he's seeing a lot of stuff happen, but it's also putting together puzzle pieces of his own trauma, of his own understanding of his own trauma.
Yep. There you go.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about why this is, why it's important to read this.
Yeah. And I think something to note also that I didn't realize until this last read. And I went back after we recorded our like first draft of this episode. I went back and looked at like notes and things. I looked at my book. I realized we never talked about why Charlie was choosing to participate. He was choosing because his best friend had died by suicide that summer before his freshman year. Right. And he was brought in along with the other couple people that were close with that person. And they were brought into like a counselor's office to talk about stuff. And it was during that time that Charlie was like, okay, this year it has to be different. I don't have my best friend and I don't know why he died. I don't understand this. Like he's kind of going through a lot of stuff. So we see the beginning of the book of like, he is processing his friend's death and he's going into high school and he doesn't have any friends because the other friends have moved on to other groups and no one really wants to talk about that friend who died. And so Charlie is like entering into high school with that. And then we're focused on the fact that he's mourning this situation. And then we realize that he's also been unwell mentally throughout his childhood. And he's been institutionalized before as a kid. And they believe it's because of his aunt's horrible car. Like she died in a car accident and they were very close. And that's when he was first institutionalized. He had like a pretty intense breakdown. And we don't really know what his diagnosis is. We don't really get into any of that, but we know that like his parents and siblings are like aware that he has some stuff that he's got to work through and they don't really know when it's going to hit. But it's kind of stressful him going into his freshman year without any friends or without anybody. It's very lonely.
Yeah, poor Charlie.
Yeah, poor Charlie. And I first saw this book when there were like my whole school. I don't know if other high schools had this, but we had like I'm from Colorado and there is a teen suicide. I don't know if we can use the word epidemic if that's appropriate, but Colorado, Utah, the Mountain West has like some of the highest numbers for teen suicides. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's wealth. I don't know what's happening, but they're like my high school, my freshman year, a really popular kid passed away died by suicide. And we just kept seeing this pattern happen. And I've lost multiple friends by suicide too. And so it was interesting. My high school, this book was really important because I think we were very aware of mental illness. So it was like spread around like wildfire. Like everyone loved Perks of Being a Wallflower. It was a very popular book. And I don't think my parents ever read it. I don't think any adults ever told us to read it. It's just like, this was like the book that we were like, this is me. This is me. Like we were all very moody and really saying like, this book is me more than any other book we'd ever read it. So that was like 2006 through 2010. That era was like, this book was like everything to everyone in my high school. It felt like, I don't know if that was the reality, but I know with my group of friends. Yeah.
Definitely.
So you have that theme of like suicide that hits you in the very beginning. And then there's domestic violence. His sister is hit by a boyfriend and Charlie witnesses it and is like pretty heartbroken about it, tells his teacher about it. And his teacher's also there doing Teach for America. Let's note that also. Like that is so of that era. It's so crazy. It's like the high time for Teach for America. He's there teaching Teach for America. It's his first year. And the teacher tells the parents get it settled. And the parents are very worried. And you just see like, I don't know. I fell in love with Charlie's parents so much in this book. And Charlie is the most likable character I've ever read in my entire life. He loves everyone so much and just wants everyone to be happy and okay.
Yeah, he's a sweet boy.
He's so sweet.
And with his parents too, like after he told his teacher that his sister was hit. His teacher reported to his parents, and then his parents took matters into their own hands. So they're like, hey, daughter, you're not to see this boyfriend again. They went to the boyfriend's house and told the boyfriend's parents, like, hey, just to let you know, your son hit my daughter.
Yeah.
So it feels like very responsible adults in this book, in Charlie's life, who want him to be better and want to protect their children and stuff like that.
Yes, that's I think the theme, like the big takeaway that I had this round was like, all the parents are awesome. I mean, all the adults. The teacher is wonderful. He's appropriate. He has good boundaries, but he's also like a consistent figure. The parents are amazing. They're not perfect, obviously, but they like try really hard. And the school, and then all of his doctors are also seem like they're really on top of it. And it's interesting because throughout the book, Charlie's psychiatrist or psychologist, I'm not sure who he's meeting with. He just says, my doctor, keeps asking questions about his childhood. And Charlie's like, that's so weird. I don't want to talk about my childhood. I don't know why they want to talk about my childhood. So as the reader, we're walking through this, through his letters to us, understanding like there's something going on with Charlie's childhood, but like, I don't know. And he keeps bringing up that he doesn't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And so like we are seeing this whole picture being painted, and in the end,
unraveled to us as it's unraveling to Charlie too.
Yes, it's so brilliant how it was done. And in the end, we find out that he had been abused by his aunt, who he loved so much. And somehow, in the end, Charlie still has space to love her and see her as this amazing person, but also space to acknowledge what happened and how that impacted him and how angry he is about it. And he gives this little like piece in one of his letters, like, who do I blame? Do I blame her, or do I blame her parent, her stepdad or step parent or whatever, who for abusing her? Do I blame that person for abusing him? Like, where does this end in the blame game? And he was like, so I can't blame anyone. I just have to acknowledge this is what it is. And it's okay, because life is still beautiful. And he's the most generous character ever. He's so generous with everyone that makes a mistake. He still gives them space and ability, and is like, he's just so generous. So that's like his whole saga of his mental health. But then we don't even get into his friend group, who are so electric and interesting, and like the dream, cool, marginal, like on the margins of the high school friend group that like we all wish we had.
Yeah. Emma Watson, Ezra Miller, Mae Whitman. Yeah. I wish that I was friends with them too.
Emma Watson plays Sam, the girl that Charlie loves so much, who's a senior, and Sam doesn't love him back that way. But she also experienced childhood abuse and sexual abuse. And so they like talk about that. But she's like so cool. She listens to cool music. She's like artsy. She like is doing her own thing. And she dances like a crazy person, and she has I shouldn't say crazy. I'm trying to say that. She dances like a very free person. And they just do these things that make Charlie feel like he's infinite.
Yeah. They all of his friends have very full lives. Which is really interesting, because we don't like, we spend time with them, but not so much time that we're like, oh, like I wonder, like there's no question about like the choices they would make if they were faced with certain choices. Because I feel like it would be very easy to write these characters as like a manic pixie dream girl and a manic pixie dream boy.
Yes.
And Patrick, the stepbrother. But like they very much have full lives outside of Charlie. And
yes.
I don't know. Yeah, he wrote that really well. Stephen wrote that super well.
Stephen. Yeah, they're brilliant, honestly. Like between Sam and Patrick, they go through a lot of stuff. Patrick's like dating the closeted quarterback, and then he gets outed, and then he like disappears from school. The quarterback does. And then he comes back to school and pretends like Patrick doesn't exist. Yeah. And they get into like a fist fight because some slurs are used. And then Charlie steps in. There's a lot of things happening to Patrick that Charlie is witnessing, as a Wallflower does.
Yeah.
And Eden brought up this really good point when we talked last time. Charlie, in his witnessing, is also a very passive participant. In a lot of this stuff, which could be his personality, or it could be a part of how he copes with trauma, or it could be a trauma response. Yeah. If you want to go into that, Eden.
Yeah, definitely. So I volunteer as a CASA, which is a court-appointed special advocate It's basically we hang out with foster kids and we communicate to their lawyer the things that we think their lawyer should know in the reunification process with the foster child and their parents. And I went to a conference for the volunteers, and we had some guest speakers there. And one guest speaker was from Touchstone Therapy. So she's a child and teen therapist, and she talked about fight, flight, and freeze. But then she introduced a new one that I hadn't heard, which was fawn. And these are responses to like a child or any person, any person's stress responses. So they could fight. So those are anger moments, dominating play, arguing, thirst for win, controlling, audacity. They could freeze, dissociation, feeling numb, shutting down, can't make decisions, can't move, daydream. They can flight, absconding, withdrawing into self, isolating from others, disconnecting from body, restless and fidgeting, overthinking. Or they can fawn, pleasing of people, perfectionism, can't say no, lack of identity, clinging, and repressing one's own needs. And reading this or learning about this, having reread Perks of Being a Wallflower, it was just so evident to me that Charlie is fawning in these stressful situations. So like one example of that, like Patrick is really, really sad and upset about the closeted boyfriend who called him a slur and basically just like ignores him. And so in his sadness, he reaches out to Charlie and he kisses him, and Charlie lets him kiss him. And Sam even approaches Sam approaches Charlie later and asked him, "Did you even want Patrick to do that to you?" And Charlie said, "Not really, but I thought I could do it so he would feel better." And that feels like a very fawning response, like a pleasing of people, like knowing that I can make the situation better if I let this person do what they want to me. And so in the conference, she talks about it in the context of abuse. So oftentimes, not oftentimes, depending on the child's response, if they're a fawner, they'll like go and comfort the adult, sit on their lap, do all these things that they know the adult has asked of them before, and they do it because they hope to please that adult in a stressful situation. So that just like points to, reading this book now, being a little bit more trauma informed, definitely changes the way I look at Charlie. The perks, it's interesting, it's called The Perks of Being a Wallflower because there are so many downsides to being a wallflower. But I think it lends to like what you were talking about earlier, how it ends really hopefully. Yeah. There are some perks to it. And Charlie was able to see the good side of things, even as a wallflower.
Yeah. I think also him being a wallflower, he noticed the people that he wanted to have in his life. Like he noticed Patrick in his woodshop class being a little goofball. And that's why he approached Patrick and Sam at the football game, because he was like, I really want to meet this person. Yeah. I think like it allowed Charlie to be, it's interesting because Charlie is very complex, as most teenagers are. But he was very intentional about approaching Patrick and Sam and about how he would help them, even though there was like a mixture of being passive and intentional in that he knew that he didn't want to be kissed by Patrick, but he also knew that it was just happening. And Charlie never voiced that he didn't want to be, but it almost felt like a little bit more like an exploration in addition to that kind of freeze or fawn response. Because Charlie was like proud that he was probably the only person in his family who had a gay friend that was out. Yeah. He mentions that's out. So there's all these parts where it's like, I don't know what is coming of age, what is about development and trial and error that happens when you're growing up, and also what is a trauma response. And I think that's where it's so complicated, because you can still have senses of control in your life and also be responding with trauma, with these coping mechanisms. Like, it's not just like you are completely wandering alone in this world without like any sort of sense of self. Charlie still knew who he was. He wanted to be a writer. He knew all that stuff, but he still was responding in those moments like that. And I think we paint trauma very complex. I think we paint it too simply. I think we paint it with a broad stroke. And I like this addition of Fawn, because I do think he's probably a people pleaser by like inherently. I think he's probably a people pleaser. And then I'm sure the trauma amped it out about physical boundaries. I mean, there's even another part in the book where he's at his brother's having a party at his house when he's like in middle school, and he's in his room and he's been told to stay in his room, and he witnesses a couple come into his room and the man rapes the woman. They're also teenagers. So these teenagers, and Charlie just witnesses it and can't leave. He freezes completely. Like, he can't leave. He can't say anything. He doesn't know what to do. He just freezes. And then he gets in trouble because they're like, why are you still in the room? But like, there's all those things which are like such textbook responses, like you're saying. And I think, but yet somehow throughout, like, embedded in each of these letters is this bit of Charlie being like, love you always, to the whoever he's writing to. And also saying like, I just really want that person to be happy. I really want that person to heal. I really want that person to whatever. And like, even his love for Sam, which he knows is physical also, he at one point is like, I knew I wanted her to be happy more than I wanted her to be with me. And that's how I knew I really loved her. And it's just like, oh my gosh.
What a pure little boy.
I know. Oh, he's so sweet. He's so good.
Yeah.
You said that you didn't like it the first time you read it, Eden. Why didn't you?
I didn't. Oh, no.
Or the second time.
Second time I read it.
Wait, yeah, tell me about that.
Yeah, so the first time I read it, I loved, it flipped for me. So I hated Catcher in the Rye, and I loved Perks of Being a Wallflower. And Perks of Being a Wallflower made me understand Catcher in the Rye. It's like, oh, I understand Holden just a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think it's because Charlie felt more of an empathetic character.
Yes.
And more of like he just loves everyone, versus Holden's like, he's a phony, she's a phony. They're all phonies.
Holden is so cynical. Oh my gosh.
But then this time around, I really loved Catcher in the Rye and didn't like Perks as much. Which is funny. Maybe that means I'm a bit more cynical. It's like, you're right, Holden. That is phony. Everything around us is phony. And like with Charlie, it's like, oh, no one can love that purely. Please.
And honestly, his love for the people that purely could also be part of his response to his friend dying. Like, I know when I think that there's a fear, like when my first friend died by suicide, Greg, I just remember being like very nervous that anyone was at the edge. And I remember wanting for everyone to be okay. And it was very like, it wasn't stressful, but it was constantly in the back of my mind. Like, I was just aware more than anything else that any of these people could go. And I don't know if that's at all what Charlie's going through either. But I just also sense like Charlie loves his parents so much. He wants to give his mom a gift for his birthday. He loves his dad so much, thinks his dad is just incredible. He's so excited about his brother calling him and talking to him on the phone while he's at college. Like, he just loves these people so unconditionally. And and his sister, he loves her so much, even though she's kind of mean to him sometimes. But like, and I don't sense that any of that has to do with the suicide, but I wonder if like looking around the school, I don't know. I'm just curious about like all of those responses, if that's going to last. But people have proved him right, though. That's the other thing in this book. Mm-hmm. His parents prove him right. His siblings prove him right, that his love does matter. And his friends all prove him right. Like, they really show up for him, especially when he gets institutionalized again. So maybe, Eden, if you love people more, they'll prove you right. Maybe so.
Oh, we'll have to give it a try. I'll stop calling people phonies first.
You're walking around your daughter, you're like, don't be a phony, Mabel. She's like, phony? What does this mean? Something that was wild to me was that my most recent read was a different edition than the read I read in high school. This one was like post 2015 edition. So there's an afterword where Charlie is writing to someone again, and it's like published in 2015. Yeah. Was that in the original, like the one you read in high school?
I don't think it was in the original.
Yeah, that was wild for me. I guess Stephen added it where he's making sure that we know that Charlie is okay, and that Charlie's still friends with Sam and Patrick and all of the other people. And like, it's really interesting. I didn't feel like it was necessary, but I think it was just like, it was just a little bit of sugar to say, like, he's okay. Also, these books these letters have been shared all around the world for people just like you and me. It was like kind of laying it on a little thick for me. But, it was a little too gooey, where I was like, okay, we get it. We get it. Charlie's letters are life-changing.
Yeah. It was in response to readers' letters, I'm guessing. So, like, readers' letters probably writing in, hey, like, is Charlie okay?
Probably.
Or maybe, like, responding to the letters Charlie's are writing to you, the reader. And maybe the reader, like, maybe at the end of it. I imagine, like, do you think kids from your high school might have written a letter to Stephen Chbosky and been like, Dear Charlie,
no,
I hope you're okay. I don't know. But there's got to be some kids who did that. Otherwise, like,
maybe,
why would that
or maybe
warranted?
they wrote Stephen and they're like, hey, Stephen, is Charlie okay?
Yeah.
Like, I have a hard time with the idea that, like, if these high schoolers are reading this book that's pretty intense and it mirrors a lot of stuff that's going on in their own lives, that they would still, like, keep that illusion up that Stephen is Charlie. That's where I have a hard time. I can
see some, like, really artsy kid who's like, oh my gosh, like,
maybe
this as if, like,
maybe I could see that too. Yeah, maybe I don't know.
I found out that Stephen Chbosky produced or directed the Dear Evan Hansen musical. No, not the musical, the movie.
Oh, whoa.
Which feels like another,
it's
similar theme,
similar era. Yeah, I think
similar letters,
same penmanship. So it is true, similar content in those letters. There's something about Stephen Chbosky and this idea of loss as a kid and trauma as a kid that he really, like, holds on to. He was really good friends with the guy who wrote Rebel Without a Cause, that James Dean, Natalie Wood movie, which is very similar to this story. And now knowing this, I'm like, maybe Rebel Without a Cause, maybe James Dean's character had also gone through some sort of something horrific as a child that we don't know about, and why he's so pent up. If you've seen that movie, it's a perfect movie to talk about Catcher in the Rye, honestly. And they're all in the same universe and the same themes. And I just think they all partner really well together. But that was interesting that Stephen Chbosky was that way. He also wanted to write screenplays. So that's, I think, why he did such a good job with each character, why it transitioned to film so well. He also directed the movie, right?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, but the characters are all so colorful and so vibrant. Like, he does such a good job. With even the dad. Like, when the brother brings up that his sister was punched by hit by her boyfriend in, like, a way to, like, undermine her. He, like, brings that up in, like, an argument to undermine her. The dad turns around and just glares at the brother. And it's very clear that the brother overstepped. The dad doesn't say anything, but you just know the energy that dad is giving. And he, like, cries at the series finale of MASH. And that's like, Charlie knows that, and that's like their little secret. And the dad like sits right between the sister and the brother after that argument in the car and makes Charlie drive. And it's like his first time driving his family. Like you feel the whole tension. You can see all of it. Like it's so good. It's so well written. Also, Eden, you brought up another really great point last time. Sorry that I'm just spoon feeding this, that Charlie is such a keeper of secrets. Some are better than others. Many are terrible. And it's a learned thing that he's very normal in his life, I'm sure, since his aunt had harmed him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's probably, I wonder if Charlie would see it as a perk of being a wallflower. Of just like, people just trust me to keep secrets.
Yeah.
But like he kept the secret. Like he doesn't know the name of the boy and the girl who he saw at the party.
Yeah.
When the boy raped the girl. He keeps the secret of Brad, the quarterback, and Patrick. He keeps, his sister does have an abortion. He keeps that secret.
Yeah.
And he kept the hitting a secret too, until he told his teacher. Cause he's like, this is just weighing on me. Like,
yeah.
And then the secret of, secrets come out too. Like, Sam's boyfriend, college boyfriend, cheated on her multiple times. And so like, it's just like a bunch of secrecy around everything. But
he even goes to a park with Patrick while Patrick's like really sad.
Oh yeah.
And he sees like the sportscaster on the TV, and he knows that he was trying to pick up Charlie. Like Charlie knows that he was trying to pick him up, and then realizes that like Charlie wasn't interested. But he like now knows this secret about this sportscaster.
Yeah.
That he like knows he cannot reveal. And it's just like secrets with strangers even.
Yeah. Secrets are, And we're starting to teach my daughter that there are no secrets. There are only surprises or like hidden things. And there's a shortcut that we can take from one street to another in our neighborhood. And before Greg and I would just call it the secret path, just as an easy way to talk about it. But now we've changed that to the hidden path, because we don't want to make going to the secret path an exciting thing.
Yeah, that's so smart.
I think that's important, because like secrets are things. Yeah, I just want to like drill into my daughter, like we don't keep secrets in this family.
Yeah,
we can keep surprises. So like, oh, this is going to be a surprise party for mom. It's not a secret. It's a surprise because we get to tell mom.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's so good. And I've thought a lot about my role as an aunt, as an auntie with my nieces and nephews. And it is that idea, like the secrets, I do not have secrets with them that their parents don't know. If we tell a secret, like we're going to make cookies tonight, I tell their parents immediately what we talked about, because it is just like, I don't ever want to model, an exclusive relationship with an adult for my nieces and nephews. I want them to know that, like, I want to model a healthy, I want them to know if an adult does try to have like secrets or like cross boundaries, that's not normal, because I and their other aunts and uncles don't do that. We don't cross their boundaries. We don't sleep in a bed with them. We don't, we don't do that kind of stuff. We make sure to have like I make sure to have pretty strict boundaries. And I know my other nieces and nephews do. I mean, my other siblings. But like, we just want to make sure that like, we've modeled that so that it's not normalized. Because honestly, sweet Charlie carries a lot of heavy burdens.
He does. Sweet Charlie.
And it's fun because he's reading all these books too. Like he's being assigned extra work by his teacher because he loves reading. And it's just like a way for him and his teacher also to like bond a little bit. So he's reading like Catcher in the Rye. He's reading, and he loved that book. He read To Kill a Mockingbird, and he loved that book. He reads William S. Burroughs. He's all over the map with his reading. And that's like a really sweet activity. But it's interesting because he's reading all the banned books.
Yeah, he is.
That was pretty fun, and how important they were for him as he's like processing his high school. And he eventually gives copies of all those books to Sam and Patrick for their going away presents because he just loves them so much. It was so cute.
Yeah.
Or was it their Christmas presents? I don't know.
I don't remember either. Yeah, I love that relationship with the teacher. Like it could have easily crossed the boundary, but he like kept it really professional at school.
Yeah.
he just gave him extra books to read because he knew Charlie liked to read, and Charlie liked, like, he did them. So he, so he continued to give him more books. And then at the end of the school year, he even invites Charlie over to have dinner with the teacher and the teacher's girlfriend. And it's really appropriate. And like contrasting that with the conversation that Holden had with his teacher. I mean, I wouldn't say I guess the Holden's teacher did cross like a physical boundary by patting his head.
Yeah. But that's still not like when we're in the context of abuse, like, yeah. But Holden was definitely uncomfortable.
Holden was uncomfortable. And then like Brendan brought up a point, like maybe something had happened in Holden's past.
Yeah.
His trauma response to be flight, or just like immediately escaping the situation.
Yeah.
But like Charlie's teacher helped, like, just, you can tell he could read Charlie. He can see what type of boy Charlie is.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I assigned these to you because I've never met anyone like you before. Like, you're just so brilliant and so emotional and thoughtful. And like, he gets emotional talking to Charlie about it.
Yeah.
And it's really quite beautiful. It's just like this book does a good job of showing appropriate adult relationships with children.
Yes.
And also calling out the bad ones. So like Brad's dad, everyone talked about how he beat up his son afterwards because he found out he was gay.
Brad's the quarterback, the closeted quarterback. Yeah. And also we get the history of Charlie's parents and what abuses they'd gone through and why his parents had decided never to hit their kids because of what they'd experienced and stuff like that. And so like you get a pretty good family tree of how these things happen, that it's not just like a one-off. And there's a lot of learned behavior and you have to be intentional to stop it. His parents are an example of stopping it. Hopefully Brad, quarterback, will be an example of stopping it. But you also get some 90s stress where like Charlie does beat up Brad's friends when they're beating up Patrick. Like Charlie has like some aggression stuff, but he's like applauded for it because his older brother's like a football player. Like there's a lot of like toxic masculinity going on there where like Charlie like blacks out and like hits people. It's really interesting. There's so much happening psychologically. I don't even know where to go, but also it feels very of like that era of like what a man's supposed to be. Even if you don't like sports, you should still be able to carry your own in a fight.
Defend your friends and family.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Excuse me.
You're so excused. God bless you multiple times.
I also have to log off.
Yes, we got to go. The last thing I'm going to say is Chbosky quoted, this is why he did it in letters. He said that he'd written letters anonymously to Stuart Stern, who made Rebel Without a Cause. And then later on, Stuart Stern found it was Chbosky who was writing him all these letters and became his mentor. And Chbosky said he found that the most intimate way to talk directly to the reader was through letters, to convey the highs and lows of being young. One day you're on top of the world and you've had the greatest of times. Then 3 weeks later, you're terribly depressed. I challenge everyone to read this book. It is so beautiful. It's heavy, but it's also really beautiful. There is explicit sexual references, so just be aware, but also read it and we'll let Eden go.
Well, I want to add one more thing to that,
please.
Just like these aren't things that high schoolers are not dealing with. Did I use my words right?
No, you're correct.
Like you experienced suicide, friends who died by suicide in high school. I was surrounded by a lot of drug use in high school. You hear things about parental abuse. I remember hearing that there was a senior prank where they went in and changed everyone's grades, and the repercussions of that was physical abuse on some of the children. There are. Yeah, those are the ones that I remember most from high school.
There's a lot.
So, like these, and like you can tell, like the way gay kids are treated in schools, like this is high school in the book.
Yes, 100%. And the famous line, I think Eden has quoted it, and we'll end on that because Eden's right. This is high school. Also, they're like figuring out puberty too. So like, it's very complicated. But Eden brought up this line last time, and it is the question of why do people let people love them this way or something? And and then
the love we think we deserve.
Yeah, and that is what the teacher says. And so we see that throughout the book. And I think, like, I don't know, there's just a lot of wisdom. Charlie's so wise because he sees that in play and realizes that he deserves better, and he works for it. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful book.
Beautiful book. Highly recommend.
10 out of 10.
Also, one more funny thing.
Yes.
The fact that Stephen wrote anonymous letters just further like supports my idea that someone wrote to Stephen as dear
probably.
Charlie.
Honestly, okay. You've won that battle. I bet they have, and I bet it was like a whimsical teen who just like could not handle it. Could not handle, but like was very overwhelmed by their big feelings and their world. You're right. You're right. And that teen was me, Eden. I did it. I didn't want you to call me out. Okay.
Awesome.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Listening.
Thank you for listening.
Next time.
How do I exit out, Eden? Do I just leave?
Burn This Book is produced by us, Nicolle Corin and Eden Wen.
Music written by me, Nicolle Corin, and produced and performed by my dad, Frank.